Welcome, everybody, to twitch.tv/ESPN Esports. Very happy. An interview right here. He is a champion. Finally, to hear that he has won the Madden Bowl after all the years that he has competed in the MCS, competing in professional Madden, years upon years, couldn't quite climb the mountain to that mountaintop and capture that championship, but finally has done it over the weekend on national television, no less. The Madden Bowl aired on ESPN2, and Joke finally claimed the crown, the prize money to go with it. The championship belt is in the mail, but Joke joining us live here on Twitch. Thanks for joining us, man, and congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it a ton. Get to talk about the Madden Bowl. It's awesome. Feels so great. Still, I can't even believe I won yet, so still feels surreal.
How does it? I mean, let's unpack that. I mean, we're a few days removed. We're only a couple days removed now, actually. You won it this past weekend, and your journey is incredible, right? Like, you had this sort of like Randy Moss, Charles Barkley, Barry Sanders kind of career, right? Where you were considered among the best players in your field of competition, but you never could quite win that major championship, right? So even take me before this weekend. Like, did you feel... What were your nerves like? What was your mindset like in your career? Did you ever feel like it would come? Did you feel like you had plateaued? Like, where were you in your career?
So it honestly got to a point where I started questioning, like, okay, am I ever going to win one of these things? Because especially this year, I felt like going into every single tournament this year, I felt like I was the best at Madden in general and the best I could possibly be. I came up short in the Classic, came up short in the clubs, came up short in the Challenge. So then I started thinking, like, am I ever going to win one of these things? Like, and am I just not good enough? So, I mean, I took like a week or two off after the challenge to kind of like clear my head. And then I started prepping for the Madden Bowl. And at first, when I was prepping, I was using the quarterback that was probably the most used, which was Michael Vick, the new golden ticket, which I had Hot Rod Master and Escape Artist. And I just honestly, I tried to spend a lot of cap on offense because it's what I did in every salary cap tournament. And I just wasn't scoring enough points, and I had such a bad defense. I was giving up a lot of points. So one of my good friends, Jay Bird, was like, hey, you should try this scheme. Like, you can still run the ball. And I didn't think that was a scheme that was still like a valuable option, something that could win a tournament. And I ended up playing him, and I realized, okay, like, this is really hard to stop. I think I can do this. So then it kind of shifted from me being balanced to, passing and running the ball to where I went to the complete scheme where I'm just going to run and just going to play defense. And then from that on, I just started, when I went to that scheme, that's when I kind of started thinking like, okay, I think I can win this tournament. I was playing all my friends and I was winning most of the games. So that's when I really started thinking like, okay, I think I can finally win this one. And then my confidence just, was boosted tremendously after I went to that scheme where I was just going to go with the saying, offense wins games, but defense wins championships.
So let's talk about that scheme, because one of the most notable things about your roster was the fact that you didn't have a natural quarterback, right? You had Tress Way, who was a punter, and and you didn't throw the ball once in this entire tournament, right? In the Madden Bowl. So take me into the decision to go to a run-only offense, and also where was the meta of the game, particularly as it pertained to running plays at the time?
So first, I did have a quarterback on my actual team. I had Eli Manning, but I just had a really low-rated Eli Manning, so he couldn't really make any passes. And then the reason why I went with Tress Way is because it kind of helped boost my special teams, because most people use a 10-cap punter. My punter was 12 caps, so my punter could punt the ball further than everyone else's punter. But the main reason I did this, and it was really strategic of me, is Tress Way is lefty. So in Madden, when you have a righty quarterback, they hand off the ball with their left hand. And when you have a lefty quarterback, they hand off the ball with their right hand. So I could run a halfback dive to different ways. And the reason why I went with Tress Way was because he was lefty. So it gave me another option of how I wanted to run the ball. The handoffs were different in every formation. So instead of just being able to run the ball to the right side of the field, when I had Tress Way in the game, I could run the ball to the left side of the field. And then I could also run stretches to the right side of the field. So it just gave me more options of what run plays I wanted to call. And it just gave me more options of me being able to open my playbook, because you have to be able to stop a lefty quarterback's run plays and a righty quarterback's run plays. Nobody else in the tournament did that except me and Little Man. And Little Man, he used the same exact team as me. So it was more of a strategic reason where Tressway was going to play quarterback for that reason, but then I was also going to be able to have a better special teams than most people. And when you're putting all your cap on defense, you have to be able to punt the ball, and your guy has to be able to, win the field position battle. And I feel like I was able to do that. And then the main reason why I went with that strategy was because when I was playing balanced, I did not have Frank Clark with power specialist. That was 105 cap on one player, which is almost, I believe, 8% of my entire roster. He was just the best player in salary cap in general. You could have an ability to counter him, but he had 99 power moves with power specialist, and he was 90 speed. So most of the times when he, if I got a shed, he was going to catch Vic. He was going to catch RB3. He was going to catch all the really fast quarterbacks everyone was using. So I went with, all right, I think Frank Clark can be the reason why I win this tournament. And I wasn't scoring enough on offense anyways when I had an actual quarterback. So I just felt like it was better for me to win on defense and just try to score, maybe 10 or I went into the tournament thinking if I scored 10 or 13 points a game, I would win every single game. And that's, how it kind of ended up happening.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in the final, right? You won 17-0, and you had said that before the game. If I'm going to get 2 touchdowns, I'm winning this game, and you absolutely showed that in the final. So you had some, so the structure of this was a salary cap structure. Current and former players were available, so you had a mix and match. You had Gale Sayers on your team. You had, like we said, Tressway, Frank Clark. You had Taylor Mays. Who were some of the other picks? Give us a little bit of the composition of your team and why you decided to choose some of your players.
So my entire offensive O-line, I had Lane Johnson playing tight end. The reason why I had him is because he's 84 speed and he had 95 run block. I had Alex Mack at center. He had 95 run block. Both my guards were the fastest guys for the least amount of cap that had at least 90 run block. My left tackle and my right tackle were Colton Miller and Brian O'Neill. They both were able to get the nasty streak ability, which if they blocked a DB, they would pancake them. And that was going to make people play, the defense differently because the meta was a formation called 3-5 normal, where there's a slot cornerback lined up over the tight end. So what would happen was my tackles would go and, pancake him. And then most of the times they would go target the safety. So I was getting 2 pancakes at play if you didn't back up the corner. So I went with those guys because they were the least amount of cap. They got both abilities who were the fastest. And then I got Teron Armstead because he was going to play receiver for me. He also had 90 run block, and then he also had 80 speed, so he would be able to, block downfield and be able to help me, score those long touchdowns. And then I spent all the cap on defense. I had Taylor Mays, Justin Reed. Every player on the slowest player on my defense was 90 speed, and it was my defensive tackle. My linebackers, I had Jerome Baker at 95 speed, 98 overall. I had Ryan Shazier, 99 overall, 97 speed. My safeties both had the maximum threshold for zone, so they were going to break on every pass, and it was Taylor Mays and Justin Reed. They also had the secure tackling ability, so it would make it where I knew I was going to play Vogt, who's a runner, but they would also be able to sack the quarterback because Michael Vick has an ability called Agile Extender, where if a slot DB goes to sack him, he breaks the first sack. So if you have a secure tackler, you counter that ability. So I kind of just made a team where I thought I could defend every offense in the game, a running offense, a passing offense, a balanced offense, and I just thought that gave me the best chance to win. And that's what I went with, and it paid off. And, Gale Sayers was also 99 speed, so if I ever got in the open field, I knew that nobody was catching me because he was going to be the fastest player on the field.
So I want to talk about so many facets of this journey for you. There are so many incredible stories and storylines going into this for you, and just a range of emotions. One thing that I noticed was, so I wrote a story about this and your victory, and the biggest response I got online, and obviously there are trolls online everywhere, but it was a lot of, wow, he won a championship with a quarterback that isn't even a natural quarterback. What kind of sports simulator is this? Like, what do you say to people how do you respond to people that say that about the game or about your strategy? What is the response to that?
So I went into the tournament using, in my opinion, the best strategy that I could use, and it was, having Tressway at quarterback. Other people went the opposite way where they had Michael Vick. At the end of the day, it's a video game, and Michael Vick is doing things in the video game that he can't do in real life. And, Frank Clark isn't averaging 5 sacks a game in real life. So at the end of the game, it's a video game. You have to strategize for the video game in the best way you can possibly, do to win. And I felt like me going all defense gave me the best chance to win. So that's what I went with. I was also not the only person who didn't use a quarterback. There was, I believe, 5 people in the tournament who didn't use the quarterback. And, obviously I was the only one who won the tournament. So obviously I was doing something different, or I was playing better offense or defense than them. And I guess that's not what, people are trying to take away from me winning the tournament because of how I won it. But at the end of the day, if you win a tournament, you had to be the best player in that tournament. And it doesn't matter what, strategy you use as long as you win. So, Shaq in the NBA, Shaq wasn't shooting for shot. Shaq wasn't shooting mid-rangers. He wasn't shooting threes. He was dunking because he was dominating. And that's what that's what he did. So I felt like I went into the tournament because I could dominate the game by defense. And, that was the strategy I chose.
So let's talk about the tournament itself. I mean, you go through this incredible career. You're considered top 5, top 10 ever in this game. Haven't won the big one. It's starting to become an asterisk on your career. And now you find yourself in the final, right? Take me into the emotions or what you're thinking. Because on the broadcast, you were sort of pushing that aside a little bit. You were being very modest, and you were saying, I'm just focusing on the task at hand. But tell us, like, what were you feeling in that moment?
So I've been in this situation now. I'm in the situation this year twice, where I was in the Final Four against Drini, where I lost. Then I was in the Final Four against Clef, where I lost. I was in the finals against Skimbo 2 years ago, where I lost. And for those games, I kept thinking about, like, if I win, what am I going to say? Who am I going to shout out? Make sure you don't cry. And I was just thinking so much of what was going to happen if I won. And I keep saying this, but it really is the approach I took for this tournament. I just thought about, okay, what can I do to beat Pavin? What can I do to beat D-Croft? It didn't even hit me that I won the tournament until I think there was 30 seconds left in the D-Croft game where I was winning 17-0. And I remember putting my head like this and like, wow, like I finally won. And that's when it really hit me. At that point, I wasn't thinking that I was playing for $40,000. I wasn't thinking that, I'm going to win my first belt. I was just thinking about everything I could do in that game to, 1, run the ball against D-Croft, and then 2, to play the best defense I can play to help me win the game.
What was the first thing you thought of when you won?
The first thing I thought of was the person I dedicated this entire tournament to was Spot Me Please, Taylor Robinson. We lost him in a mass shooting on August 26th. And from the start of the tournament, I knew I was going to try to dedicate this tournament to him. I used the Titans jerseys because that was his favorite team. I used my team name as RIP for rest in peace for Spot Me. So the first thing I thought about was like, this is for you, because I know, like, we were really good friends, so I knew he would have been really happy to finally see me win. That was conversations we had a ton. Obviously when he won his first one, I was in his group, and this is something a lot of people don't know. It was a group between me, Skimbo, and Spot Me, and Problem. So it was us 4. I was 1-1. Problem was 1-1, and Skimbo was 1-1. So I had to win the game. Spot Me. At this point, me and Spot Me weren't even really good, that close of friends. Spot Me randomly comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna beat Skimbo. If you win your game, you're gonna make the playoffs." And that was just the kind of person Spot Me was. Spot Me was humble. He was genuine. And he just wanted to help everyone, whether you were friends with him or not. So it just felt great to be able to dedicate this tournament to him. Like, it felt good because I finally got the monkey off my back. But the most important thing to me was that I won the tournament, that I got to, dedicate to my late friend and Spot Me.
Yeah, it was a really emotional moment on the broadcast where that was literally the first thing you talked about after winning a championship. Very classy as well. So you win this championship. You're at home. You celebrate with your family. But we're still in a pandemic. It's crazy just to envision this whole scenario where you finally win this major championship, right, Joke? But you're doing it in your bedroom. Like, you are in the exact spot where you won the championship right now. And it's crazy to think that this is the extraordinary circumstance where you finally get that monkey off your back, right? Like, have you taken a second to think about how incredible this circumstance is, that this happens for you, this life-changing event, this milestone, this bucket list item, and it's happening during a pandemic?
It honestly almost feels like destiny. I go into the tournament as the number 1 seed. One of the main headlines is, can Joke finally win one? Then, obviously this is the new normal. So it just feels like it was all destiny, like it all came full circle. I had, one of the best years ever where I was number 1 in points. I broke the record for most points in a season. I broke the record for highest average finish. And then I get to play the last tournament, the biggest tournament, the most important tournament at home, with my mom watching, with my dad and my uncle watching from their house, from my brother watching upstairs. And it's just crazy. Like, this is the one I finally win. And my friends always tell me I'm the greatest online player ever. So people now, that's another thing people have been saying that, maybe I just won because I was at home. But I do know one thing, the monkey's off my back. So now I'm just looking to win 2. I'm looking to win 3. I'm looking to win 4. And I don't have to think about anymore like, okay, I finally have to win 1. I kind of feel like LeBron when he won his first championship. And I remember him saying in this interview where he's like, I feel like I'm on top of the world right now and I ain't got no worries. And that's legit how I feel like. I feel like nobody can ever tell me anything about Madden because I'm a champion. I won the most important tournament of the year. And it's just great to see that because I finally got the monkey off my back. I don't have to think about that anymore. And I can just, continue like just for legacy now. People say now maybe top 5 all time. What happens if I win 2? What happens if I win 3? So now I'm just looking forward to, catching problem and seeing where I can end up as a Madden player of all time.
How much is legacy important to you?
So at first, until this year started, the only thing that ever mattered to me was winning a belt. But then as, the finishes started getting closer to the finals and people started putting me in top 10s and I felt like, if you had a top 10 that I wasn't in, it probably wasn't a good one. And then after I win, now I feel the same way. Like if you don't put me top 5, it's kind of tough to argue I'm not top 5. And now I've done every single thing you can do in Madden. I've won underground tournaments. I've won crew versus crews where it's tournaments with your friends. I've made finals. I've made Final Fours. I'm top 5 in winnings. I finally won a belt. So now I've done everything you can do in Madden. So now the only thing I'm thinking about is my legacy. Where do I want to end up at in Madden as one of the greatest players of all time? And I want to end up as number 1. It's going to be tough to catch problem, but now that's what I'm looking forward to. That's going to be the motivation that I use to try to be as good as I can for these future tournaments and, just continue winning and just continue being one of the better Madden players in the world year in and year out.
What do you think it's going to take to be considered number 1, at least in the steadily in the conversation? You're in the top 5 conversation definitely now. What is it going to take for you to be considered the greatest of all time?
So catching problem is going to be tough because problem was winning the most important tournament of the year when there's only one. We're lucky now where we've had 15 of these. Problem was winning these when there was one chance and he was winning them year in and year out. So if you asked me, I don't think problem could ever be caught. I think I'd have to win 5 or 6 belts, maybe 2 in a row. I'd have to win maybe $500,000 in winnings. So catching problem is going to be tough. I'm almost starting to settle for maybe second greatest of all time. Because catching problem is going to be tough. I'm sure he's going to continue playing. He didn't have a good year this year, so I'm sure he's going to use that as motivation. So I'm going to just keep trying to. I'm going to find a way to give myself motivation because when I didn't have a belt, all my motivation was a belt. That's what I needed to win. Now that I have that, I have to find some different motivation. Now it's to win my second belt, and then after that, it's going to be to win my third. And then that's what I'm just going to be looking at. Now I just want to try to win every tournament. And I feel like there's a big pressure released off my back because now I've watched the streams. All they talk about is, Joke's made 11 of these. He's never won. He's done everything in Madden, but he doesn't have a belt. So I'm just happy I was able to change all those headlines. And now it's, Joke finally wins his first belt.
I was going to say, what are the commentators going to say now? They don't have that storyline anymore.
So now they have to start saying it. They're going to start saying, well, does he get 2 like Dreeny? Does he get 3 like Skimbo? Does he try to catch problem? So now I'm in a group of people where I can say, we're all champions. And at first I couldn't say that. And, if I lose, let's just say I lose the Madden Bowl, nobody remembers the year I had. Everyone just remembers that D-Croft won the Madden Bowl. So it's just good to know that right now I'm on I'm on the top of the world of Madden right now. I'm at the top of the mountain. And it's going to be the best part. It's going to be like that for a few months because there's not going to be another tournament for another 4 months. So I'm going to be able to feel like I'm on top of the world until another person wins the belt. So it's a great feeling.
So the belt itself, one cool moment was you obviously haven't had the opportunity to raise it above your head. That's reserved for usually in-person tournaments. You obviously don't have the belt yet, but Derwin James did have it, plays for the Chargers, raised it above his head for you on the broadcast. Has he mailed it to you yet?
So I just got an email today from EA asking me if my address was the correct one to send it to. And I did say yeah, so I'm assuming they're going to be sending it soon. Until then, I have a picture of the belt as my lock screen, so I'll show you.
Okay.
Hold on.
You also tweeted a picture of your face on Derwin James with a freeze frame of him holding it, which is
So this is
very
my
funny.
this is my lock screen for now. So
There we
since I
go.
obviously can't host the belt, every time I look at my phone, I can see it. And then one of my guys, one of my best Madden friend, one of my best friends in real life, it's just someone I got to meet in Madden. Somebody who's I was his best man. I was one of his best men in his wedding. It's just somebody I met from Madden. He made a Photoshop where he put my face on, Derwin James, raising the belt. And it's just a new normal. You got to make the best out of the most situations. And that's what I'm trying to do out of this situation. I'm trying to have the most fun with it. I keep telling people the first time I go to the next live tournament, I'm bringing a Wi-Fi speaker and I'm going in with the belt over my shoulder, playing the Stone Cold Steve Austin theme song. I'm going to have as much fun as I can with it because it took me there's been 4 years of the MCS. It took me 4 years. It took me 11 live events. It took me so many times of me coming up close and, not actually winning. So I'm going to try to enjoy this as much as possible. And I'm, just trying to figure out ways to do so. But the Steve Austin thing, I'm definitely doing that for the first live event. That's going to be my intro.
Glass is going to shatter somewhere. You're going to come in, couple joke wisers. You're going to throw a couple of joke stunners. I like it.
Maybe, drink some water. We're not going to advertise no alcohol drinking in a tournament. So
Fair
maybe,
enough.
2 bottles of water. With the belt and the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That would be even funnier. Cheersing the water all over you. That would be great. Speaking of having a great season, so I was talking with Tyler Davis, T. Davis is one of the commentators, obviously, and we did the celebrity Madden Bowl together at ESPN, and he was saying that this season that you had ranks as one of the best ever, if not the best ever, for one competitor all season long when you look at it from start to finish. And the MCS actually tweeted a comparison of your season in Madden 20 versus Skimbo's season in Madden 17, considered 2 of the best seasons ever, right? And looking at the numbers, it's very impressive. Like, I wonder, you seem to have a little bit of humbleness to you, but I'm just very curious, like, where would you rank this season, looking at it as a whole, compare it to any season any Madden competitor has had?
So I would say for sure mine and Skimbo's, obviously the best too. I'm not going to say my season was better than his because he did make a finals. He did win the biggest one. The one he won was 100,000. The one I won was 65,000. So I'm not going to, try to argue that my season was better. I'm just going to leave that for anyone who, whoever they want, they can voice their own opinion. I know that, in my opinion, I've had one of the greatest seasons ever, and that's good enough for me. I won $132,000 playing Madden. I made every single live event. And then this is coming from a very disappointing, year last year. Last year was the only year where I didn't make the Madden Bowl last year. And I remember having to help, my guy, Little Man, practice for the Madden Bowl. And just having I was kind of sick. Like, this is the first year where I don't make the Madden Bowl. And that was another, that was more fuel to the fire. I came into this year knowing I was going to put in as much time as I possibly could into Madden, into every season, try to be as good as I can. So it's kind of like a redemption story because last year, people don't even remember this, but I didn't make the Madden Bowl. I was 1 game away from the Madden Bowl where I lost to Pavin. And I do feel like the Madden Bowl was bittersweet for another reason too, was because I got to beat Drini, who beat me in the Final Four of clubs this year for $35,000. The difference between second and third place was $35,000. He won that game. And then Pavin last year beat me for $20,000 because I lost him in the Final 8. And then, in the Madden Bowl, everything just comes full circle. First, I get to beat Drini in the Final 8. Then I get to play, Pavin and get, my revenge against him in the Final 4. And then to top it all off by winning, the tournament in such a dominant fashion. I do feel like this is one of the most dominant tournaments ever, like a dominant run ever. I was maybe an accidental run commit from going undefeated in this tournament. I gave up 7 points a game allowed versus the best 16 Madden players in the world. So I think just this, this tournament run in general was insane. And I think when people do discuss who had a better season, that run should be part of that conversation.
Let's end on this joke. You are the reigning Madden Bowl champion. What is the Madden scene like right now? Like, take me into the context of as a competition in terms of interest, in terms of eyeballs on the product. It seems as though there's a little bit more since the pandemic, obviously, with more competitive gaming, including Madden, getting more looks from people that wouldn't normally pay attention. But what is the state of the scene from your eyes?
I think the Madden scene has raised its scene. I can't really use the right word, but I think it's the Madden scene has improved dramatically year in and year out. Last year, the Madden Bro broke a ton of records for viewership for all the tournaments they've ever had. And then I feel like every year the tournaments are getting better. The prize pool is raising. I feel like more people are watching Madden, especially now during this pandemic. I've had so many people reach out to me, so many different media outlets, and it's crazy to see that this many people are watching Madden. I think the Madden community is just going up from here. I think EA has been doing a great job of promoting its players, throwing the tournaments, and even the players. It's truly a brotherhood, and people don't really see that because obviously every community argues, but I do feel like this is one of the tightest communities in the world. When someone's down, everyone messages them. Like I said the other day, I was going through a few things, and I got a lot of messages from a lot of the players like, hey, hope everything is good, stay focused, you're almost there, try to win the tournament. So it's a tight knit community, and I think it's only going to go up from here, and it's just going to keep improving. We're going to keep getting more viewers. The sponsorships are also increasing. EA signed a deal with a Pizza Hut to have a Pizza Hut stadium. They have the Snickers, they have New Era, so they have a bunch of new sponsors, a bunch of huge sponsors, and nothing like I would never be able to win this Madden tournament if it wasn't for EA and all the sponsors and everyone who helps put this thing together.
And it aired on ESPN too, and you finally broke the mold. You won your first championship on national television. Where's the belt gonna go?
So I have a whole setup. So I'm gonna move this camera.
Yeah, please show us. Yeah.
All right. So where I'm gonna take out that mirror and I'm gonna frame the belt. Next to it, I just ordered a autographed Gale Sayers jersey where I'm gonna frame it next to it. Then I'm gonna try to get a Frank Clark autographed jersey where I'm gonna frame it next to it. I'm gonna try to get a Tress Way autographed jersey where I'm gonna frame underneath it, and then I'm also gonna frame this controller, which is the controller that I used to win the Madden Bowl. This was the first time I ever used this controller. I'm usually superstitious, and I use the same controller. So this is a controller EA sent me. Never gonna use this controller again. So I'm basically gonna just frame, everything that all the main reasons why I won the tournament, and that's exactly where I'm gonna put it. So it's something I'm obviously never gonna forget about, and it's gonna be memorable. I'm gonna have the three most important players on my team: Frank Clark, Gale Sayers, and Tress Way. The controller I use, and then also frame the belt as well.
We need at least Tress Way and Frank Clark to show up to a Madden event. Like, we need a picture of you with. I mean, you with all three of them would be great, but you with at least both of them, the active NFL players, would be very appropriate, I feel. Like, it needs to happen. We need to put that in the universe, so at some point, the three of you are in the same place at the same time.
Especially,
they need to know.
Yeah, Frank, I would have never won this tournament if I didn't have Frank Clark. I honestly, I'm getting to the point where I think I'm going to go back to watch every single game I played, and I'm going to see how many sacks Frank Clark had, because I want to average how many sacks he got a game. I think the number is either 3 to 4, and it's when you're playing with a defense that was as good as mine, defensive wise, just by the player, and I'm getting 3 to 4 sacks a game by one player. I would have never won this tournament if I didn't have Frank Clark. So that's definitely I definitely want to get a signed jersey by him, at least minimum, maybe meet him, anything.
Yeah.
Frank Clark is definitely the main reason why I was able to finally win my first tournament and finally call myself a champion.
We got to make this happen somehow. But what did happen, it is in the books. Nobody can take it away from you, is you are the 2020 Madden Bowl champion. You have finally won your belt, and that removes all doubt, removes the asterisk from your resume and from your career. When people are talking about the greatest Madden players of all time, Joke absolutely belongs in that conversation. And he's joining us here at twitch.tv/ESPN Esports for a post-championship conversation. Joke, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys, and I really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
So thank you for joining us here at twitch.tv/ESPN Esports. If you're not following us, please hit that heart. We have programming live every single day of the week. No matter what esport you follow, we definitely have you covered. Thanks for joining us.